So I wanted to show off some Exchange resources, like Adam said. And so what the Exchange is, if you have never heard of it, is think of it as a public repository to upload Ignition resources that really anybody can utilize. And what I want to do here is just highlight 3 of those resources. I specifically picked these Exchange resources for a few reasons. The first is they don't have as many downloads as some of the other resources. And so we're kind of sticking with the webinar theme of hidden gems, maybe some folks that aren't as aware of these, but they still have some, number 2, really nice functionality to take your project to the next level. And then 3, in addition to that, the kind of nice polish that they might add, they do introduce some more complex web dev topics as well. I get questions all the time on, hey, how can I use JavaScript or CSS or HTML in my project? And hopefully these 3 resources can give you an idea on A, how to do that, and B, if you're brand new to it, how just learning about some of those technologies. So let's kick things off with the copy to clipboard resource. This one was created by Conner Futa. He's a application here internal to inductive automation. This resource uses the WebDev module to run JavaScript, HTML, and CSS all within a WebDev resource. So before we dive into development and see kind of the nuts and bolts behind this, I think it's always good to see what the functionality of this is. So this is a different project that I brought on, a different gateway, but we'll go ahead and throw this into preview mode with our toggle there that we learned earlier, and we'll just say webinar. And what this resource is going to do when we click this, it's going to take text within a perspective session and copy it to the client's clipboard, right, to the machine running the client. So now I can paste this, of course, anywhere, right? So really valuable in a lot of these different use cases. But think of it a use case like this. Some of you might have an OEE dashboard, right, in your facility, or some sort of reporting dashboard. A lot of times an OEE dashboard is keyed off of 3 main parameters: your start date, your end date, and your machine ID. And so what you can do is you can bake those into the URL as URL params and dynamically build this gateway URL with those parameters, and then send those to a coworker, right? You send them in Teams or and Slack or whatever you have, and they can open up that same dashboard, the same as that exact dashboard that you're looking at. So, well, of course, there's a lot of different use cases for copy and paste, but a really nice resource to be able to take text within perspective and bring it to the client. But let's go ahead and check out the resource itself. You'll notice that it is a WebDev resource, so you would have to have the WebDev module here. But you can see we're using HTML in here. We're using JavaScript here, right? We're adding an event listener, the click event listener, and copying that to the clipboard of the machine. And we're also using CSS here, right? So examples of how you can kind of create your own features and functions in addition to all the great features and functions that we have within the perspective module. The next resource that I want to show off here is the rolling menu. The rolling menu was created by Nicoli Liedtke, and hopefully I didn't butcher your name, Nicoli. I really do appreciate you throwing this on the Exchange. It's a really cool resource, and it shows off some common CSS to add shadow boxes on hover, transitions, and more for a fresh take on kind of navigation strategy. So let's go ahead and open this one up. Double click on this guy. And I'll throw this in the toggle this into preview mode. So we got our standard, typical hamburger type icon, right? But when we hover on this, it expands out. When we click, these icons roll out from underneath the icon. You can even see this hamburger menu changes to an X, right? Kind of a cool transform there. And then when we hover over these other navigation options, you can see if I keep hovering, there's a cool pulsing effect in the background as well. So a really kind of way to add some flavor there, some interaction for the end user that just, it's a nice polish to your project. And so what we've done here, if we click on the home icon, you can see that the class we're using is called navball. And that's being defined inside of our style sheet, the advanced style sheet. So the advanced style sheet is something that's been added recently. If you right click, if you don't have the style sheet, you can right click on styles and there'll be an enable advanced style sheet option here. Of course, I already have it enabled, so that's why it's not showing it as another one. But inside of this, you can see this is all CSS that Nicoli has created. And you can even, if you look closely, here's the nav ball style that I was just showing you on that icon. It's always prefixed by the .psc, which stands for perspective style class. And that allows perspective to know that we can use this style class essentially. But you can see it's all the styles are defined here. We even have some pseudo classes down here for different actions for on hover, right? Remember when we were hovering, it had that pulsing effect, and that's using this animation of the neon nav ball, which is using this keyframe up here. So a lot of different things, a lot of different concepts inside of the CSS that you could A, just take and use in your project, or B, just take and learn and figure out and tweak and adjust to maybe an implementation that you'd like in your project. And finally, the last resource that I wanted to mention here is the CSS animation guide, a robot example. This one was created by Mike Bordyakov. He's also an application engineer similar to Conner Futa that I mentioned earlier with copy to clipboard resource. But this specific CSS animation guide uses animations to move a robot in a perspective session. I really like this resource, and one of the reasons I picked it is it's a really great intro to CSS and how to use it within perspective. It has a few different pages that get more complex as you go, and so it's a great place to, no matter where you are in your CSS experience, right? It's a great place to learn and grow. So I think the best way to show this one would be to actually open it up in a session. Go ahead and launch this session. Bring it over here. You can see there's a basic, an intermediate, and an advanced, right? And so we can play around with, this is a single axis for a robot or arm. You can see as I click on these different angles, you can see the CSS updates over here. You can also change the duration on how long it takes for that arm to move. Jumping over to the intermediate one, you can see as I click through some of these arms, right? It's changing the angle at which each of those arms are. Of course, we can still do the same functionality of takes longer now for that angle one or the arm one to move, and then we can choose to display the part and all that good stuff. And finally, there's an advanced tab. This one is a really cool example of how to use these animations in like an actual project and show maybe even a process of a robot's exchanging a part, right? So you could absolutely take this and use it in your project if you do have robots, but just a really great example of using CSS and animations there. And I also mentioned up top here, there's a description of what's going on, but it also gives you where and how this is configured within the designer. So definitely check this one out if you're new to CSS or even how a little bit more advanced and want to see how Mike went ahead and designed this. A really great resource there. But yeah, there you go. 3 resources that you may not be aware of on the exchange that can really help take your Ignition projects to the next level.